Hey everyone, this is Nicoletta. I'm here with some guests this time, my lovely friends Allison and John. Hey. So we're just going to talk about something that's been occupying like a lot of the headlines recently, at least for the past week, even though it's been going on quite a bit longer than that. The massive rainforest fires in Brazil and the Amazon. Which are actually not the only major forest fires that are going on in the world. Also a huge conflagration in Africa as well, the Congo rainforest, Angola, and recently there were also massive fires in Sumatra and Australia. So there was a huge fire also in Siberia at the same time. So we're just going to kind of talk about like what's going on and like the major drivers there, like the fact that climate change is both exacerbating that, but also, you know, it's going to make climate change itself worse, and what are like the driving factors here. And we're also going to be promoting like a plant-based alternative, because really that is the most sustainable option here. We can't keep destroying our environments to fill our bellies basically with carcasses. So yeah, with all that said, Allison, do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on what's going on? I know you had something in mind that you wanted to say.
Well, I did share a speech at the Brazilian consulate on behalf of In Defense of Animals, kind of just discussing like the whole situation. And I mean, one fact that I shared with Nikki is that, you know, they used to have 5 million indigenous people there, and since colonization began, it's now down to 250,000. So and the rainforest is such an important part of the ecosystem. You know, it sequesters like a ton of carbon. There's 25% of the drugs of our cancer-fighting drugs come from the rainforest. So that's something we're losing at like what, an acre a second, 1 to 2 acres a second.
I think it's increased within the past year, 1.5 acres per second.
Yeah. And the main driving factor behind the destruction of the rainforest is animal agriculture. The Brazilian government has a program where if you clear land and have cattle there, you can get tax breaks, subsidies, all kinds of benefits and incentives from the government.
We kind of have a similar like crooked. All right, so like I was saying, there's a similar program that's going on here in the U.S. You know, crooked like corporate government agreement basically, where tax dollars are going to subsidize like the dairy industry, for example, and also the meat industry, because we have, you know, nutritionists like promoting, you know, a diet that's high in meat as something that's a good option, when a plant-based diet is actually healthier, helps the dairy industry. There's like tons of dairy that is produced that's extra, that's kind of just wasted by the government, and it's ridiculous. It's huge, like it's a huge waste of water, energy, and also food that could be going to humans. And the dairy industry, also the cattle industry, is a huge emitter of carbon, which has got us into this problem in the first place, and also very unhelpful for you. If you look up anything to do with nutrition that's not like funded by big agribusiness, you'll see that, you know, some of the proteins in milk are actually very harmful for you and can exacerbate free radicals leading to cancer. So yeah, it's really sad to see that like there's another kind of arrangement like that in another country, and it's destroying a rainforest right now.
Yeah, it's colonization. That's really all it is. Like, even the mindset of the Brazilian government is like the rainforest is something for us to own and conquer, and like the rest of us have no say in it.
Yeah. At most, it's just a resource. At worst, it's in the way.
Yeah, but like that rainforest sustains life on our planet, and like if it keeps burning down, it's going to be a cascade effect that we can't survive. So it's much more than just owning a piece of land.
Yeah, and then also too, not to take it by a grain of sand, but for Bolsonaro to learn from United States mistakes as well. Is we have the Dust Bowl, which happened I think in the 1950s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was caused by cattle ranching.
I think it was the 30s.
Actually. The 30s, 1930s, early in the Americas. But I mean, that goes to show like how detrimental and how devastating that can be to have cattle ranching affect the entire, United States. So Dust Bowl, we can see it, and hopefully Bolsonaro does see United States history and things that happened in the past, from introducing cattle into the United States. Well, cattle is not, I guess an indigenous species. Yeah, they were not even from this country. They were from Europe, and they created so much destruction. As cute as they are, cows are really destructive. And hopefully Bolsonaro sees that from past mistakes of the United States, and continuing until today with the logging of the forests, and actually he would make a bigger impact for generations to come, and the money being put to use to log these the forest, the Amazon rainforest, could be put to better use by protecting it, because it will be of greater value. So if we look at indigenous cultures and the indigenous mindset as opposed to the white mindset, so the indigenous mindset is that wealth means many things. So to these indigenous people that are being directly affected by the logging and fires, we're actually making them ill. Their wealth is their health in regards to foraging from the land, hunting certain species, and of course breathing clean air. So the wealth to them is their health, and the health of their tribe is being manipulated by Western ideals, this idealistic system of the white mindset, that it's okay to make money, at an expense of non-human and human animals.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
Yeah, just like narrow, short-term financial gains.
Exactly. It's really short-term, short-sighted, all for like a quick fix in someone's bank accounts,
Mm-hmm. And really, in Brazil, they're only using it as a tax shelter. So you have wealthy banks like Barclay. I don't even know that, and I have one of their credit cards. They buy land in the rainforest, plow it down, sell the lumber, sell the wood, and actually make the majority of their money, and then hide the rest of their money in tax shelters using animal agriculture. And it's an incredibly wasteful tax shelter. I mean, in the rainforest, it takes about 1 to 2 acres for one cow only. And as John said, cows destroy the land, and so then the land is just infertile and dead. You have this land that you once hosted thousands of species in one little acre, and it's just dead forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even tying into like the life of the trees and the life of the animals, like all the web of life that's being affected. There's actually, with the rainforests that are in South America, it produces a lot of it sequesters a lot of carbon and also produces a lot of oxygen. through photosynthesis. And there's actually so much life in the rainforest that life consumes almost all the oxygen, about 98% of the oxygen produced by the rainforest. It consumes all that oxygen. So that's how much, biointensive, life is there in the rainforest in South America. And it's really fascinating, the life that's there. And speaking of trees, I'm sure probably you too, but for the rest of the world, trees are part of like this mycelial network. So they're tied together. So when we're cutting one tree, we're probably affecting 10 other trees. Scientists have discovered within the past 10 years that probably even like within the past 30 years, they did a study where they fed a tree this colored water. And over time, they actually were able to track this colored water 5 miles out into another tree that was sipping that colored water from this other tree. So these trees are super fantastic, and they're amazing and majestic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what we're doing to the rainforest is just really devastating and really appalling, and just sends a message to the rest of the world. And does South America and Brazil and and all these other, Chile and Puerto Rico and all these other nations, do they really want to be tied to this ideal of the white mindset that, hey, like they don't really care about their people and the life that's in it?
Yeah. Agreed. I don't know if there's anything more that you wanted to add.
Just that we have to stop doing this. I mean, what's the best way to help fight this, you guys?
Direct action.
Yeah.
Direct action.
Direct action as far as like the government of Brazil is concerned, but also like direct action to liberate animals, frankly. A huge solution to the problem is going vegan, to cut out,
Vegan.
yeah, definitely to cut out beef to start with, because cattle ranching, animal agriculture in general is responsible for something like 80-90% of the rainforest destruction.
Yep.
Just to clear land for that.
Yeah, but it can't just stop with beef. A lot of people are saying, well,
Yeah,
just cut out
absolutely.
beef.
Yeah,
But-
to ban Brazilian exports from to the Americas.
Yeah, and yeah, the fact that Brazil has double the amount of chickens that they have cows. But we need to push past that and just get the mindset out that the nature isn't ours to own, because that's what's killing our planet. We're not going to make it otherwise.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's really sad is it kind of feels like this is happening at the heart of our biosphere, basically, and this whole network of like native indigenous intelligence there. Yeah, it's kind of just like everything that's wrong with capitalism and with carnism.
Yeah, the mindset that we own things, that we own living beings.
Right.
That has to change.
Yeah, and to all the rest of the countries that are out there, like you don't want the white mindset where we're destroying the land and deeming animals as objects and things. You don't want that. We don't want to continue that. If anything, we should be learning from indigenous peoples. Their wisdom is there for the taking. Like they're wondering, when are you going to ask important questions? How can we live in harmony with nature? Pretty much. And another solution is to cut all government subsidies with animal agriculture. I mean, the only reason why they're able to do this is that there's so many laws favoring animal agriculture, from squatters now being grandfathered in that now they can take the land of Indigenous people all the way up to, being bought out. Like, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a business at that. Like they're being bought out. They're using, taxpayer money and all this, like they're using socialism tactics, or they're using socialism at their expense and claiming that they're a democratic mindset, which is two opposing views.
Yeah, I mean it's socialism for the rich and the landed people, the landed class.
Trickle down democratic, stuff. But yeah, it's to cut all ties with government subsidies. The only reason why these businesses and corporations are making it to the top is because they're getting handouts from the government, and that includes the United States and South America.
Yeah.
So we really, like some of the solutions, the easy solutions, is what we do 3 times a day, which is eat. Is cutting all that. That's the best form of being radical in regards to something that you can control. Like you can't control what's happening. I can't control something that's happening in South America. If I was there, I probably would be on the front lines, but I'm here in the Americas. Something that I can control, instead of being having a defeatist mindset, is the actions that I take. I can speak, hey, like, yeah, that sucks, pray for the Amazonias, that's fine and dandy, but to take action is a lot, supersedes just speaking about it.
Yeah. And I think that's not just restricted to like veganism itself too. Like people have to be more conscious with their consumer choices too. I was telling them earlier that a massive amount of Chinese rainforest is being destroyed for like cheap furniture that's used in the Western world. It's like things need to change. We need to be more sustainable. Heck, we could fuel our need for like furniture, which is a genuine like household need, with hemp, something that's more sustainable and sequesters a large amount of carbon.
Yeah, hemp, cork, bamboo, there's a lot of trees and plants out there that can help fix this if we were to plant them now. We need to take action in our daily life and in our planet.
Yeah,
and think about the planet that we want to leave our next generations, our descendants. What kind of planet
leave them with?
Think about that. We're already on target to get to like 2 degrees Celsius of warming in the climate by 2100. And we could very well exceed that, going on our current trajectory. So, we have to start making decisive action to help our climate, to help save our world now, while we still have that possibility. Green New Deal. That's what I say. But include veganism. People need to be more conscious of their choices every day. Like it's in our hands.
And something to also note is that after the UN Council came together, like after, I think it was, what was it, in Australia, that they announced like a climate emergency. So certain, I guess certain states in the Americas also, said, hey, we're in a climate emergency, let's start doing something about it. So we're in the trajectory of planting more trees. See, like we say we're modernized, but we're going back to like having more trees. Like that's what we're aiming for. And the rest of the world is actually aiming for less trees. So we're kind of like saying, hey, we've been there, we've done that, you don't want that. We need more trees. And on top of it all too, what's something that not a lot of people talk about are the oceans. How like the oceans are going to be affected, about the smoke and how the oceans sequester carbon as well, which they're going to take a huge hit from all the smoke and all the ash and all that stuff that's happening from slash and burn kind of tactics of animal agriculture. So think about our oceans being acidified, which are leading to ocean dead zones. Without our oceans, we'd be dead, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly,
we can, the oceans produce more oxygen than the rainforest.
It's not to say forget about the rainforest.
Of course
they
not.
both play a vital role in pretty much our existence.
Yeah.
So the oceans produce about between 50 to 85% of the world's oxygen. And for it was like 30 years ago we discovered this new species of diatoms, which are these species of phytoplankton. They've actually evolved to have their exoskeletons to be red, to absorb more sunlight, because they're found in the bottom of the ocean, which green and blue lights they make it to the bottom of the ocean, so they're able to just absorb all that sunlight. And they're responsible for 1 in every 5 breaths that we take in the world.
Wow.
So if those diatoms go, we go. Like we're aiming to plant more trees. Yes, like the Amazon's being destroyed. We need to protect both the oceans and the forests.
Mm-hmm.
Because by doing that, we're essentially advocates, and also we play a really interesting role in the world, where we're kind of like protectors of the planet. If we were to follow that role, we would be protectors of the planet, because literally, like, everything that man comes in contact with, we have the option to create or to destroy. So we have that option at our hands, literally at our hands. So which is the one that we want to take? What role do we want to take? Do we want to be destroyers, or do we want to play the role of a protector?
It honestly ends up killing us if we choose that path of a destructor rather than like a steward of the earth.
Exactly.
Because we're all connected at the end of the day. Well, I think that about covers it, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a lovely day. It is a depressing subject, but hey, like, not all hope is lost was the point of our message. There are actions you can take every day to make a difference. You can also go ahead and make a difference at the political level by advocating for some massive changes, like getting rid of subsidies, getting more vegan options out there, like in our schools, for example, by pressuring the Brazilian government to stop this reckless policy, this reckless short-term policy that is going to wipe out the rainforest. And you wipe out the rainforest, they're not coming back. It is really extremely difficult to make them come back once they're gone, because you just created a whole other regime of conditions. And like half of the terrestrial biodiversity is locked up in our rainforest. To me, it seems like not just on a calculated environmental scientific basis, but also on a moral and spiritual basis. We have an obligation to do something about it, to not just save our species, to save millions of other species that are on a collision course with what we're doing to our climate.
And people.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having us, Nikki.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for having us. Go vegan.
Thanks for being here with me to share your thoughts.
Yeah, of course.
All right, have a good one. Go vegan.
Go vegan.